This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Watch all 104 matches of the FIFA World Cup live in 4K for just $19.99 a month with 3 days free. Build your own multi-view, choose up to 3 streams, and follow player spotlights. Stay on top of every moment with live stats, highlights, and instant replays. The FIFA World Cup, streaming live on Fox One. Offers are subject to change. See fox.com for complete terms and conditions.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Excuse me, taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
On the line with us right now, Senator George Borrello. He's a Republican state senator from Chautauqua, where I spent the summer, and I lost a lot of my stuff. My mother's still angry about me for losing my stuff at the day camp there. Jamestown, Chautauqua. Listen, all kidding aside, Senator Borrello, we had a guest on, Jania Butler, just now, and Fernando's also saying this. We've got to get the Republican Party to really make an effort with these minority communities, and there may never be a better chance now because the Democrats are giving them socialism and anti-Israel hatred. That's not going to pay the bills, is it?
No, you're correct. And by the way, there have been false promises made to many communities. And, I will tell you this. We have made inroads as Republicans, and I'm chairman of the Senate Republican Campaign Committee. We've made inroads with many communities because it's about quality of life. When you're trying to sell someone on, a Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus conservative, but you've got the Democrats in charge that want to, put in a migrant shelter in your neighborhood or are forcing you, to pay more for less services. That resonates with the communities, and that's the message we're pushing. And I will tell you that Bruce Blakeman, our candidate for governor, he has made this point. He has done better in Nassau County, with the minority communities. I believe he got 37% of the African American vote in Nassau County, which is unprecedented for a Republican. So we can make that case. This is not about politics. It's about quality of life. It's about public safety. It's about affordability. And for the Democrats in charge, affordability is just a word. They've done nothing to make New York more affordable.
But you got to get in there. Senator Borrello, I'll tell you, my favorite Republican New York State congressman of all time, Jack Kemp, and one of his famous lines was, "Don't fear the voters." This is a man who walked those streets and was willing to do that. And when he was the HUD chairman, Housing and Urban Development, he created these enterprise zones. He and Charlie Rangel were all over Harlem all the time. Republicans need to be walking the streets of Harlem, walking the streets of the south side of Chicago, showing up. And, President Trump did that in 2016. Remember when he went to Detroit just before I think that helped clinch Michigan for him, actually. We got to walk the streets, right? You got to walk the streets. Jack Kemp, the great New York, again, he ran for president too, great quarterback, but his tenure as a congressman, a Republican congressman from New York, I think was the most impressive.
Well, I agree. And by the way, the Republicans that are making inroads and being successful in blue or purple districts are the guys walking the streets, like Mike Lawler. He's a perfect example of that. He's winning in a district that is more Democrat than Republican. And there are other examples. And it's about selling the message of common sense and quality of life. Ronald Reagan said it very famously, "Are you better off than you were 4 years ago?" Well, in New York State, under Kathy Hochul, I don't know anybody other than a criminal that can say they're better off than they were 4 years ago under the Hochul administration. And that is the case for every New Yorker. And the bottom line is this: we do have to get the message out there. What are the Democrats doing right now? They're deflecting away. They're talking about things. They want to yell Trump and MAGA and just keep throwing red meat to their base, hoping that they'll ignore the fact that their quality of life has declined, that's now no longer affordable to live in New York State, that they don't feel safe. That more than 50% of New Yorkers in a poll recently said that within the next 5 years, they're considering leaving the state. And by the way, that's not theory, it's reality. People are fleeing the state more so than any other state in the nation. So people have to understand the correlation. What we Republicans have to do, we have to draw that line between your miserable life in New York State and the people that are running it. And that's really the challenge that needs to be taken up by every common sense person, Republican, conservative, independent, and Democrats who feel that the party that they belong to no longer supports their values. Socialism is the lie it's been told for nearly a century. It's never been successful anywhere in the world. And you think some guy that smiles nice and speaks well is going to somehow make socialism work in New York? It's not going to happen.
Well, listen, his smile and his walk, his talk is making it happen. And we need an intervention by the GOP. We need to show a little effort. We can't give up and say, you know what, we don't stand a chance.
But what's the scoreboard? Give us a scoreboard in the state assembly and the state senate on the GOP versus Democrats right now.
Well, 2 years ago, we made a significant gain. We broke the supermajority in the New York State Senate, which means that the Democrats no longer have the ability to override the governor's veto. What you need, though, is a governor with a spine, and we don't have that. Someone who's willing to stand up and say, "I'm not supporting these radical agendas, and I'm going to veto the bills that do." So, Kathy,
has she vetoed any bills like that?
She's not vetoed anything significant, but again, this is a sword that you wield as the governor. That's why people have to understand, if you want to restore balance to New York State government, electing Bruce Blakeman, with us continuing to hold where we are and gain ground, we don't need to take the majority back. We just have to prevent them being able to override a governor's veto. So that's where we are right now, and electing Bruce Blakeman will help us restore that. But keep in mind, folks, we also need other people out there speaking the truth. Look, way back when Rudy Giuliani was first elected to mayor of New York City, it was by a razor-thin margin. But people said, "Look, I'm a Democrat, a lifelong Democrat, but I don't feel safe walking the streets of the city." So they held their nose, if you will, and voted for a Republican. And then they saw their quality of life dramatically change in New York City. That has to happen again. The people have to decide for themselves that it's not just going to be this visceral reaction to something that's happening in Washington or somewhere else. It's about the quality of life where you live, where you spend your time every day, where your family lives. That's what you have to vote for, not for some national or international issue.
Senator Borrello, you live in Chautauqua County, and I can say it finally.
Nice.
It's amazing. It's awesome.
and you know upstate very well. I think Bruce Blakeman can win Nassau County, Suffolk County, Staten Island, maybe, you never know, a few more counties down here. But give us your pulse of upstate, because a lot of people upstate never heard of him, and he's depending on the lieutenant governor he selected, who I don't know, up in, he's a sheriff up in upstate New York?
Madison County, yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes. Todd Hood, an excellent, lifelong law enforcement member. But what I will say is this: Bruce is getting out there. But it's a big state. Geographically, it's a huge state. You've got 62 counties and nearly 20 million people, and he has to shake hands with as many as possible, because when you hear Bruce speak, you understand that he knows he is the guy that can run this state, because he's running Nassau County incredibly well. Voted the safest county in the nation, 1.5 million people nearly. He can do the job. So we are trying to do what we can to amplify that voice. I was with him in my district doing a tour with him, talking about things like being able to harness the natural gas that's under our feet in the southern tier, where we have a high level of poverty, and yet we are importing power from other states and Canada, instead of harnessing the energy that's right under our feet and employing people and creating economic prosperity. That's the message that Bruce Blake.
Can you get the message out? Make upstaters rich again?
We'll take middle class again, by the way.
Right.
Yeah, Senator Borrello. But that's the crux of the matter. Do people in upstate New York understand how much of a threat to them somebody like a Zohran Mamdani, who has pushed Hochul to raise taxes, and it's not just on us, it's going to be on everyone in the state? Do they understand how much New York City residents like Yoko Ono are the ones who are stopping fracking from happening in upstate New York? Meanwhile, across the border in Pennsylvania, incredible jobs for 30 years because of fracking. Do they understand that Bruce Blakeman is running to protect them from Zohran Mamdani and these people? It isn't just about, it's another downstate candidate, we don't care. Do they understand how much of a threat this guy in New York is to them? And if they don't, how do you get them to realize this?
Well, what I've been saying to people, the analogy that I'm using is that this is a cancer that has metastasized in New York City that is spreading throughout the state. And it's happening, and we see evidence of that. So that is the message. And that's what really people have to understand. This is a cancer that is spreading misery across New York City, and it's spreading to upstate New York. So the biggest challenge we face upstate is people feel their vote doesn't count. They feel that they're outnumbered by New York City. But that's really not the case. At the end of the day, we vote at a higher percentage outside of New York City than the 5 boroughs. That's just a fact. And quite frankly, that people are not happy with Kathy Hochul, particularly even in the 5 boroughs. Her approval rating is dismal throughout the state. In a state that's more than 2-to-1 Democrats to Republicans, she can't even break 50% in her job approval rating. So that is an opportunity, and it also is a sign of the frustration that we have here in New York State with how things have been governed under one-party Democrat rule. The key is restore balance. I don't care if you're a lifelong Democrat or you're an independent. You should look at your life and decide, do I feel that the government is serving me and my needs? And there's really only one constituency right now that is being served by the policies of the Democrats in charge, and that's criminals. Okay, everybody else, if you're a teacher, if you're a construction worker, whatever you do for a living, tell me how the policies of this governor and the Democrats in charge have made your life better. And the answer is they haven't.